Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Underrated Movies. I'm your guy. I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. And today, I would like to talk to you of another film that is on HBO Max that did not get enough attention, that was released in theaters last year during the pandemic. And, of course, there were quite a bit of films that were released that get enough, didn't get the attention or the recognition it deserves. Today I will be talking about the supernatural horror film, The Empty Man, starring James Bagdale, Stephen Root, and those are the only two actors I know that are in this movie. Everybody else, I don't know. Don't know everybody else. And it follows a ex-cop who's investigating the disappearance of a friend's or his neighbor's daughter, who could have ties to this supernatural cult. When I looked into this, first of all, when I heard about the film a little bit, and then I don't know, I didn't think nothing of it. I thought it was going to be one of those films like the Bye Bye Man, the Slender Man, the terrible horror film Slender Man. Man, when that came out, that was horrible. And they advertised the film to be like that, like one of those creepy pasta like horror films that really don't they don't put any effort into it. Surprisingly, I was wrong about this film. And shout out to Chris Stuckman. I've been watching that guy for years. I'm a huge fan. Congratulations on your news of soon or becoming a dad. Congratulations. Yeah, he reviewed this film, and he believes should be a cult following. So luckily, it was available on HBO Max, and I saw the film. This is my second. I just finished watching it for the second time, and this is actually a great supernatural horror film. Now, this is inspired from a comic book, and I'm gonna tell you this: the comic, and I did a little research in the comics. The only connection I got from the film and from the comics is the premise of the Empty Man, or the mythology or the concept of it. Everything else aside that is basically up in the air. And from what I've heard, the comic book doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and I'm not one to judge. I don't know anything about the comics except that the concept of the Empty Man is those are the only two connections I found with it. I thought this film was well shot. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the film look, the cinematography was beautiful. I think this is James Bragdale, the lead actor in this film. I think this is his second lead role since the Netflix film Spectral. That's also a good film too. And I think this is his best film since then, just performance wise. The guy is a great actor. I think he's very severely underrated. I know he's not given enough credit. Like, first time I discovered that actor was in The Departed, surprisingly, because he was in there. Um, Again, this is not like your other horror films or supernatural horror films that Hollywood produced. Those creepypasta movies. This is a little bit like that, but it steers away from that. It steers away from um, the jump scares. Really, there's really not any. There's not really a jump scare in this film, um, which is good because the film relies on atmosphere and the mythology of the Empty Man to kind of creep you out, and there's certain scenes in there that are a little bit disturbing, but nothing I can't handle. But it gives you the fear of fearing the idea of the Empty Man, the cult, the mysterious cult um, that is summoning or worshiping the Empty Man, and the idea that the film questions or makes you kind of believe or question um, your own thoughts, your own reality. Do we have control of our actual own thoughts, or is it predestined, or is it predestinated? do we actually have free will, or are we supposed to follow a certain path, or we're supposed to do this and that, and that's it. That's the definition of our lives. That's the meaning of our lives. And the film touches that. And I love that this film touches on ideas of free will, and do we really have control of our lives? Is there something out there sending signals, or are we receiving messages to do certain things in life? Do we have control over that? And I like the concept of it. It was very intriguing. Stephen Root, who's in the film, who's, for those who don't know, he, I think his most well-known role is playing Bill in King of the Hill. He voices Bill. And they have a very good conversation about it, where he plays the head of this cult in this institute, and he talks to James Bagdale. Do we actually have control of our thoughts? And it's our thoughts that actually makes us, or we perceive certain things based on our thought process, our mindsets. You feel a certain way if you're having a bad day, or can you will yourself to change your thought process and see it from a different perspective? And that was actually a good concept, actually, and I really like that. And I think I think it might relate to The Empty Man in a way, to really, I guess, metaphorically, what is the empty man? And I guess, let me see here in my notes. I guess when a person is at their most vulnerable, who feels lost, who feels, I guess, empty, I guess the empty man gets you. I guess if you feel lost, if you're vulnerable in any way, I guess you succumb to weakness and you lose your ability to question your reality, your thought process, and I think you become weak-minded. And the empty man gets you. And when you do this certain thing where you summon the empty man, where you're on a bridge, you have to be at a bridge somewhere, and you have a bottle and you blow into it, and then you think about the empty man, and then you see him. You have 3 days. You hear him, you see him, and then he comes and gets you on the third day. Kind of like, I don't know, like The Ring. If you watch the video, then 5 days later you die. The cinematography I mentioned earlier is breathtaking. This is one of the best well shot horror films I've seen in a while, close to Midsummer. And then watching it a second time, the ending did kind of confuse me a little bit, but I think after watching it a second time, I kind of connected the dots a little bit. And I won't get into the detail of the ending. I won't. Because I was watching the film and it revealed certain things about James Bagdale's character, which it kind of reflects that in the film he's basically a pawn of something bigger. It does this big plot twist where I thought it was actually delved into like as a very psychological way that I thought was very very interesting. It was very bleak too, and I actually loved it. That was bleak. I really don't like it in horror films. I'm not saying all horror films have to be this way. There's a bleakness to it where you feel like there's no hope, and there actually kind of wasn't really any. It was more of a mystery, and when you discover the truth of James Bagdale's character, his journey of what he's going through, it's quite shocking. It's quite like wow, and also a little bit confusing. You kind of have to really connect the dots to it. I'm still connecting certain things to it, but I'm liking and I'm loving the film. I love the film that it did not try to result to any cliche shock value or jump scares. It just tried to be its own thing. It took its time, and I love that it took its time. Now, are there any connectors you can really connect with? Maybe just James Bagdale. And maybe there's just certain things the characters, certain situations the characters go through, you kind of understand. There's a lot of shots of bridges, antennas, or things that symbolizes an antenna that kind of give you something that there's more to it than what you're actually seeing. And the movie kind of just pans dead on to those things to kind of just remind you, okay, there's something bigger than what you're actually getting. Um, though there are a few questions that are left unanswered, and I don't mind that at all. But I'm wondering, is the empty man an alien creature, or it really is a supernatural being? Because they mention the cosmic so much, I'm getting the vibe that, is it a creature from a different universe, or in the supernatural realm, or is the empty man or this creature an alien? The movie doesn't specify, but when they kept saying cosmic, I'm getting the vibe it's an alien. Um, and again, the concept from the comics and with this movie, the concept of the empty man remains the same. I don't think really the comics heavily tied into this movie, so it's kind of its own thing. And honestly, it's a shame that the film bombed. But if you have HBO Max, check it out. Like, I really, really like this film. This movie was probably one of the best supernatural movies I've seen, horror wise. Wow, it was a great film, and I really like it. I wouldn't mind watching it again. Actually, telling you the truth. There are some creepy moments in here. There's this one moment where James Bagdell sees a group of cults running around this circle on the fire, around this fire, and it goes up in the sky, and it alters the sky a little bit, and then once they stop, they see James Bagdell, they start to follow him. He steps back and they take a step forward. He steps back, he takes a step forward. He's like, nah, he runs off, and then the group runs after him. That's a little spoiler of the scene here. That was actually pretty cool. The prologue, which everybody talks about, is 22 minutes long. That is bold as hell. And then the title pops up. The last time I see something like that was the remake of Friday the 13th. You don't really get that. That is interesting. And I loved it. I love that this film took a chance and do something different. Please check this out on HBO Max. I highly recommend it. I know Halloween passed by and we're getting to the holidays, but if you have a vibe of a horror film, please check this out. Leave a comment section below if you've seen it. Let me know. And I will continue on my next underrated movies.